Oh yeah, you're looking right at me. I'm looking into your soul. Come on, try a little. Nothing is forever. I mean, it's got to be something better than in the middle. We're back here. It's the BCX. It's the Brian Campbell Experience. This is Campbell's Rambles, episode 2. My chance to connect with you, the BCX community, answer your questions, share some of my takes and musings on life, art, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and legalized recreational material, whatever you're into, really. But I'm fired up. It's Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. I'm going to try to do my best to balance between all those great questions you guys sent in on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Brian Campbell Experience, and the live ones we have coming in right here. As always, right? Thank you. Thank you, folks, for making this what it has become, which to me is like this great surprise and great, joy in my life. I mean, it's not my wife and children, but it's something I didn't think I'd love this much doing and care about and have this much passion putting it together. So thank you for patronizing me. Thank you for getting my back. Thank you for telling me how you really feel. As always, we'll continue to build this BCX community together. The big news today, I guess, if you want to call it big, um, I don't really know how to do it or what I'm doing, but we got a super chat. All right, we got a super chat. And you always gotta have, the first dollar bill you put on the wall when you open up your restaurant, your diner, right? And you're gonna frame it. So there it is, Lazy Bed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tukey needs new shoes, right? That's what we always say about Luke. But thank you. It is what it is, right? Somebody's got to pay for these kids to go to college. But thank you. I don't put pressure on you. Do as you come as you may. Do what you do. But if you're trying to pay money to get something really inappropriate said, I'm not gonna activate it. But Lazy Bed, man, you got my back. You got MK's back. You got the main card minutes back. You're one of the good ones here. You're one of the ones that are loyal. I mean, will I end up one day waking up in an abandoned building in a bathtub, missing part of my key organs at the hands of Lazy Bed? If that happens, take the liver first because I barely need it. Jokes aside, so happy to be there. The whatever that thing is on, you can donate or whatever. But I'm just going to keep bringing it as long as you're willing to receive it. Okay, that's what we do here. It's Campbell's Rambles. Please like the video and subscribe. All that stuff. I mean, we're monetized now. Things are moving. I never know what clips when we throw them out there. Mikey's always got my back. I never know what clips when we throw them out there that are gonna work, that are gonna hit. But you guys seem to like certain things, so thank you for jumping in on all the things I'm doing. The 20 questions, the wellness checks. I saw the clip with Jed Meshew the second. A lot of you enjoyed. So I don't really know at this point, like what's the right formula for me. I'm trying to balance producing the type of content that you guys actually want. And sometimes that's, it's an educational process. Do you guys really want fighter interviews? Do you really want, structured things, or do you want me to just turn on this camera and my wife beater and tell you some jokes? I got to mix that with, the kind of content that makes me happy and gets me fired up. And then in some degree, figure out what content fuels this algorithm to try to win this game too. But I'm nothing here without you guys. So thank you, Kenneth. I appreciate that. You better believe it there. Indeed. We're going to get into it. Let's start off at the top here with just a couple of things going on in the combat sports news cycle at the moment. Obviously, this Saturday's UFC 307. I was just able to pick and choose a little bit on the media day interviews, get a better feel of what's really going on here. Salt Lake City, Saturday night. And I think I'm still in that tough, like in between area where that's Jack, that's wildly inappropriate, but good thing you didn't pay for that one. There you go. This feeling that, like, I know I'm gonna like the card on Saturday at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Yeah, right back at you, Lee. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, man. I know I'm gonna enjoy 307. I'm a degenerate fight fan, like all you. That's why we're here. That's why we love this thing. But it's not a pay-per-view card. Like, it's really not. It's a really good fight night card. And I care about almost more about some of these random in-between fights. I mean, I just interviewed the Cookie Monster, Carla Esparza. Oh, man, this guy, Bob Saget, RIP, always has my back there. Yeah, hit that. Vaping is for closers, Luke once said. But, I'm torn between, like, the more you dig into this, it's a bold offering. bold offering from them in Vegas over there in the UFC to make this a pay-per-view. Now you do have Alex Pereira, arguably, right? The sort of the hottest star of the moment, the most valuable star of the moment, without question, which is maybe the explanation as to why he's fighting Roundtree when some have, I think, rightfully sort of criticized that decision. And I want to get into that a little bit, but I'll just say, like, I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be entertained. I know which fights are probably going to overproduce and make us happy. But if you're still clinging to the narrative, everything, if you're still clinging to the idea that this is a watered down matchmaking era, without question, this card does not help that. And I think that this ties into what has been sort of the biggest, what's been fueling the news cycle in MMA the last 2 days, the last day the most, and that's Dana White. The best thing about the Dana White Contender Series, but which, by the way, is a very good show. I don't watch it every week, but I always say, like, if we're going to lose World MMA Awards, best MMA content to that show's a fantastic show. I know people that work on it. I like people that work on it. I know the intention they put in. It's very good. I got no problem with that. But the Dana Scrum afterwards is the crack for us. It's where we get the updates on the news cycle, on the important topics. And it led off with Dana on KevinIole.com before that. And they all kind of played together. And I think they play into this. Like, I got nothing against Khalil Roundtree. He's a big underdog in here. Obviously, he's got a puncher's chance. He's got big time power. And if he did the impossible, despite how much I like to get tried in at times to the romanticism of the potential of greatness, and in this case, it's the romanticism, thank you, Joe, of the idea that, like, Poatan really might be one of the greatest we've ever seen. And he certainly already has, among the most unique career arcs, which is so ridiculous how quickly he adapted to the sport after a Hall of Fame 2-division run in Glory Kickboxing. But, would I rather see him get a chance at capping off this incredible resume by winning and advancing? No doubt. But if Roundtree does the thing, good, dude, just listen to what that dude's been through in his life, the physical transformation and turnaround from where he was, well over 2 bills and a couple years ago, very overweight, and how he sort of put it all together. Joshua, thank you so much, bro. It's hard not to cheer for that guy. The backstory on his grandfather having the relationship with Muhammad Ali, even Roundtree expressing at Media Day today, what it meant for him to get that phone call. He said he got it on one of the worst days he's had in a while, going through some legal trouble. Things felt like the end. And then he gets the call and they say, by the way, you're going to be in the main event of the UFC pay-per-view. Yeah. I mean, Jamocha shakes in an Arby's parking lot with a bunch of whippets. I mean, it used to be a recipe for success and happiness. I don't think so anymore, but thank you, Lazy Bed. But to try to talk us into the idea that, like, that this is perfectly acceptable as a choice right now to bring the number 8 guy and have him parachute in ahead of everybody in the top 10, knowing that he hasn't beaten anyone in the top 10, it's hard. And I think when you mirror that with a tough co-main event title fight that has a lot of potential to be as poorly received as the vacant title fight, which led to it, to be very fair. And the fact that you have Kayla Harrison on the card, but she probably should be fighting for the title, and Jose Aldo on the card, but with how many he might have left at 38, you can argue maybe you want a more higher profile matchup. Although, like we talked about in MK, if Aldo does the thing as the short underdog here against Mario Bautista, wow, he might be, one more fight away from another title shot. Like that. That's what you get for being the king of Hio and having a resume like that. But I mean, this is not an inaccurate portrait there, Larry. Okay. All right. Rambling man. I mean, Dickie Betts is my second favorite guitarist of all time. So RIP to the man. But if you look a little bit deeper and you take Dana's comments from the scrum and the Kevin Iole sit down, and Cole, man, damn, Cole. All right. I got you through college. You got me through it too. Okay. we're all in this together. I love turning people over to this side of it, the box side. Put your hands inside the box. Put all your limbs in there, okay? Get into the sport. MMA is a little frozen right now. It's a little bit on pause for the most part. But, like, if Roundtree did the thing, I'd be happy for him personally. But, like, would I be happy that this fight even got booked when Magomed Ankalaev is ranked number 2 and healthy and deserves it and is in a place? I mean, what's his most recent win? Decimating Johnny Walker, who is, one of the rare top 10-ish guys that Roundtree has ever fought. And Johnny Walker finished him, right? And then you dig a little bit deeper than that, and you're like, man, the only guy Roundtree's ever beat in recent memory that was in the top 5 at the time was, or top 10 at the time, was Anthony Smith. But, back end of the top 10, the veteran, juggling a lot of damaging losses in between that. He's never beaten a guy in the top 10. You want somebody, when somebody's going to get a title shot, unless it's a situation like an Umar Nurmagomedov, who just, we knew the goods. He was lingering in that 10 to 15 area. You just want him to get a big win. I didn't think he necessarily had to get the title shot next, but it's a great play if they're going to end up doing that. Believe me, Omar versus Merab is an absolutely technical, incredible fight. But damn, you, even with 5 wins in a row and 4 by knockout and some devastating ones, you want Roundtree to really have earned that opportunity. I mean, when you look at the 5 on this win streak, that's when you can start to pick it apart a little bit for the 34-year-old Roundtree. The best win being the 3rd round stoppage of Anthony Smith last time out. But if we're honest about Anthony Smith and where he's physically at in his career, you understand that he has lost 4 of his last 6. So there you go. And then the fight before that is a knockout of Chris Daukaus, and that's the last fight of Chris Daukaus' UFC career and part of a current 5-fight losing skid. And then before that, it's a split decision win over Dustin Jacoby. And that too is part of a streak of having lost 4 of his last 5 for Jacoby, who's probably his own employment is on the line at the moment. Carl Roberson, he stops before that. And this isn't a knock. They gave Roundtree these fighters and he's running through them. Roundtree is currently, Carl Roberson is currently on a 5-fight losing skid, and he was stopped in 4 of those, including Roundtree. And then the fight to kick this all off is my Lithuanian brethren to start the win streak, Modestas Bukauskas. And while Bukauskas is looking up at the moment from the standpoint of technically having won 5 of his last 6 and, winning Marcin Prachnio there, the submission in his last fight, but the Roundtree loss was his 3rd consecutive, and he got cut from the UFC after that. So without having anyone on the in-between there, Nikita Krylov, or anyone on that level to have had Roundtree gone through them, and then you add in the whole situation here, ultimately, about why is it not Ankalaev? And I'll give Kevin Owley this credit. He gets criticized a lot by people. He's got a very close relationship with Dana and the UFC. And, there are people that say, does he press hard enough on these topics? Whatever. We always it's hard for anyone who's going to be covering the UFC intimately on a close level, because you do have to manage the relationship. But I think in the second half of Kev's career, there's been some understandable criticism. He's been doing great lately, pushing Dana, and I like the angle of the questions, important ones that were meant to sort of get clear answers from Dana in this most recent one he did on Tuesday. I thought he set up these questions perfectly, but he didn't follow up. So great question to Dana about, hey, look, you just made the Ankalaev fight against Rakic. Ankalaev is ranked number 2, and he's fighting Rakic, which is a very good fight, but Rakic just lost his last 2, both by stoppage. So why did you make that decision when now Roundtree's available and at number 8 he's in? And what he got from Dana was a bunch of talk in a circle, but not an answer. A bunch of well, wait, when was that again? Or I'm not sure of the timeline. And then Kev, to his credit, did correct and said, no, well, this was booked months before. Why? And it's just a no answer from Dana ultimately, and that's frustrating. So it tells you there's some issue with Ankalaev and the UFC. Is it just leading back to him fighting, not showcasing himself well enough in that Blachowicz title fight, which ended up being a draw? And the public comments afterwards, is it still let off from that? I don't know. There's some people say that Ankalaev has been offered a Pereira fight in the past and turned it down. He's vehemently denied that, but it would only make sense that he would get the next shot right now, unless you're the UFC and you're thinking, we got to give Poatan one back for how clutch he's been to us. And it's not like I'm against that, because Poatan has been absurdly clutch for them in big moments when they've needed it. Going back to Madison Square Garden when Jones and Miocic fell apart last November, and Poatan slides in, no problem, I'll take the main event and I'll deliver the big one for you. UFC 300, it's a month away. We don't know what the main event's going to be. Don't worry, we got Poatan. We'll get Jamal Hill ready. And Poatan's going to go in there despite injuries and knock him out. And then Conor McGregor breaks his toe in International Fight Week. And even though Poatan entered the last fight with a broken toe and then broke a different one, he started to take the fight last minute and save you and deliver the boom all over again, this time in the rematch with Prochazka. And it was, violent and beautiful and wonderful. Yeah, Al, I'm with you. Indiana love right there. Don't have a lot of yeah, there you go. Get some shine there, Al. Don't have a lot of. I drove across Indiana a few times on the way to Milwaukee, but I can't give you much more than that. It just like there seems to be an obvious like gaping hole here. It should have been Ankalaev. So like at least just tell us the truth why it's not. Maybe you're frustrated with it. Maybe whatever. People say he's the most boring fighter ever, but you can look at the recent run and his last 2 wins were 2 big knockouts, and he has beaten from the recent memory nothing but top 10 level contenders. So I think this card could have been a lot better because so I understand the UFC just going, okay, it's a bad style matchup for Poatan, and it definitely is. But maybe we'll do him this one solid. He's not only on the verge as Mike Bond of MMA Junkie, and I think he just started his own Bonfire podcast / YouTube channel. Shout out to Mike Bond, the handsy fellow there. He had found the stat. I only heard it and I only presented it to Dana, and it's an incredible one that Ronda Rousey had held the record for the fastest 3 title defenses in UFC history at like 170 something days. And now I'm off on the numbers, but now Poatan's going to break that with a win on Saturday. So in that regard, if you're giving him, not a layup, not a gimme, I mean, he can lose this fight against Roundtree. Roundtree's absolutely legit from that scary standpoint of being physically able to do it. If you're just doing that because he's the man and it'll probably sell better, which it will, and at least people are going to get a knockout and get some action, I get that. I get that to a degree, but it's almost like, man, just be honest about it, or just like think about what this card could have been. Because if this was Poatan Ankalaev, I mean, I would play up more of that incredible stat of how busy Pereira is, how he's only fighting killers. I mean, the streak that he's on now of having beat current or former champions is like 5 or 6 fights in a row. And with it, and in that streak is the knockout loss to Adesanya, which is the kind of loss that could have shattered the confidence of anyone or ruined anyone, especially at this advanced age. But like, I still love this card largely because of Pereira, because he's going to be in this action fight. But what would the interest and the buzz have been if it was against Ankalaev, who you can really talk yourself into the idea that's a bad style matchup for him. That's a sturdy guy, a guy that probably already should have been champion, right? If he had maybe done a little bit more against Jan, although let's give Jan credit. Like that was a very evenly competitive, close fight, evenly competed fight. But just kind of weird in that, it's weird because like the last few weeks, I felt like Dano, I was caught up in the excitement about him getting into boxing, which I do want to see what it's going to look like. I want to see him yield his powers and align them, I guess, with Turkey, and we'll see what happens. And I got the chance to call a fight in Ireland for kind of for the UFC, but not really, for Tom Loffer's 360 Promotions. But the UFC played a big role in producing and putting that out there. I felt like Dana's been a little bit more like happy lately and old school, like 2010 Dana, and media friendly and open to new ideas, maybe. Even if it was just trying to sell the boxing thing, I'm buying. Okay, let's go. But then I feel like what we saw on Tuesday, which plays into the conversation about Ngannou and fighter pay and the boxing versus MMA business plan structure, which again, like that, Ioli got him into that. Really wish Ioli would have pushed harder on getting the actual answers. Like, it's one thing for Dana to just react and just say that's untrue. That's untrue. They're all liars. Okay, well then tell us why. Break it down for us, right? I felt like Dana was a little bit more closed off, but still excited to see what he does in boxing. Some people have asked, like, VC, did you hang with him in Dublin? Did we get a Guinness together? We did not. Actually, we didn't end up having any interaction or face-to-face at that time. I did announce him up on the stage for the weigh-in, and that was cool. I mean, I got nothing against Dana. We can be at odds about specific things related to the MMA business and fighter pay and all of that, but that's a completely separate lane. That's boxing, and that's where I'm in, and that's where I'm going, and that's where I'm headed, and that's what I want to be. So if that happens and there's a chance in a relationship there, I'm professional. We're doing it, bro. We got the same goal in mind in that regard. But in some of these MMA debates, yeah, I'm still aggressively on the other side. So what if the card had been, which it probably should have been, Poatan Ankalaev, and then what if your co-main event was Rocky Pennington against Kayla Harrison, which, I argued on Morning Combat. We don't know how many times Kayla's going to be able to make this miraculous physical change and make 135 and be awesome doing it, like she did finishing Holly Holm in the second round in her debut. But does she have the track record is the question I asked Luke. Does she have enough, money in the bank to have deserved an instant title shot after that win? Yes. 2-time Olympic gold medalist, the greatest judoka in American history, the multi-time PFL champion and $1 million winner, and somebody who really, that lost to Pacheco in their third fight notwithstanding, would have liked her a chance to see a fourth fight and her get an immediate rematch. It didn't end up working out for them. But we still don't know yet that she's not all-time great legendary. Like, she's deserved it. I just think there's too many variables. Yeah, that Long Island Luke, I'm gonna get this guy on this channel soon. Well, people need to know more about Long Island Luke. That guy is a solid ass bloke. He comes from an Australian man's piece, right? I mean, let's peace be with you. Not that specific piece I was talking about. It'd be a little bit weird and gross. It'd be like we'd be talking about Vince McMahon's backstory. Back to this though. Imagine if right now it was Rocky versus Kayla. I think people would care a lot more. And I think you run the risk now of, what if Kayla loses to Ketlen Vieira? What if Juliana Pena loses to Pennington? And then Kayla would have next, but wouldn't Pena need to get well in the meantime? Wouldn't that, she's already 35. Wouldn't that produce unnecessary gaps and delays in there that may never come to pass? I know Dana did tell Ioli, and he's probably right, that like, it doesn't matter. Kayla's going to fight both of these girls anyway, right? If she becomes the champion, she's going to end up fighting them because they're the best in the division. And to a large degree, I agree with that. But the problem is the division's at its absolute lowest point in quality right now, which is why I think it opened the door for somebody like Rocky Pennington. No, not to say that she's not consistent and been on a 6-fight win streak, 36 years old, as sturdy and stingy in the way she fights as ever before. You can't knock her out. I mean, she's only been stopped in the UFC once, and that was in the 5th round against the greatest of all time, Amanda Nunes. So I can get over how bad the Bueno Silva fight was and how that wasn't a great representation to me of championship level mixed martial arts. But this division's at a poor point. This division needs that injection, I believe, of Kayla right now. If that was the doubleheader, I think we'd care a lot more. I think we'd be more fired up. It may not matter. I mean, but if Pena wins, you're still going to get Pena versus Kayla, which is probably the best matchup commercially that you can make under the UFC roster in there right now. But wouldn't you get that anyway if Kayla went in there and beat Rocky like we would predict her to do? I mean, Kayla's a minus 900 favorite last time I checked against Ketlen Vieira, who is, no chump and has a good track record of late for the most part. Has, beat Holly Holm, won some fights there. It probably should have been in the way that we all kind of saw Mayra Bueno Silva right now, but she didn't get it done in the big moment. She kind of faltered heavily. So I'm not here to crap on Pennington. I think Pennington-Kayla would have made a lot more sense if Kayla wins that. Then you're guaranteed to get that big fight with Pena, who can talk. Hasn't talked much here. There hasn't been a lot of back and forth with her and Rocky. In fact, this fight's been aggressively under the radar for reasons beyond that even you can predict. It's just kind of buried. I kind of like the fight in a weird way, but I just don't understand making Kayla wait another time. Maybe it doesn't matter in the end. But if Amanda has a potential to come back, Nunes, which is like being talked about, then give Kayla the first possible freaking chance she can put that belt on her. Maybe she doesn't win, and then the division keeps going and we find out. But what are we doing here? So yeah, I feel like if you want to malign the main and co-main, or even to some degree Aldo Bautista, although obviously it's gonna be a badass fight. So if you're playing the card of like BC, slow your roll. It's about time you finally give Jose the love he deserves as a top shelf, or as a upper room. Put a 6 chair on the corner. He can sit right next to Mighty Mouse. But beyond that, like, give him the love and respect that he's still kind of in this. And I guess, if he beat Bautista, man, he's put together a pretty good run outside of that loss to Merab, ever since losing his first 2 appearances at bantamweight, the close fight with Moraes and then the title loss, which he got handled by that version of Petr Yan. So it's even wilder that he's been able to come and do this recent streak, which the only setback is the Umar loss 2 fights ago. But in a weird way, it's a moral win, right? Because Umar did go on to win the belt, yes, but because he stuffed all 16 takedowns, which is a stubborn, man. It's real stubborn, all right? Yeah, keep Manich in here too, like everyone. It's like we're at a party. Hey, Manich, pass the Ducci to the left side. Manich doesn't like when I talk about his music career, but Manich, you got to get that shit in gear, okay? Look up Lonely Angeles, right? Fantastic track. That white boy's got soul, right? All right. So yeah, I think there's because as much as the fact that Pena is the rare fighter at 135 who has like real personality and that you kind of want to see fight, she hasn't fought 2 years. And in that fight, she got destroyed in the rematch against Nunes, which righted the wrong of the first fight. Not that you take away from what Pena did, which is one with the power of the human soul and spirit. I mean, she just never gave up. But we can't act like, having seen the rematch, that Nunes wasn't compromised in the first fight because she had been injured, felt a lot of pressure not to pull out of the fight, decided to kind of just go through with the crappy camp, and completely imploded. Completely. So Pena's credit there. But that rematch, she lost 50 to 44, 50 to 45, and I think 50 to 43. And then we're getting comments from her, and it's okay. She can talk game this week and talk herself in, up and build her up. She's got that, that's what you do as a fighter. But here's her quote. This run from MMA Fighting from an interview this week. So I think with that being said, it's kind of one of these things Pena said, like, did you beat me? Talking about Nunes. Yeah, you might have beat me in the scorecards, but if we got locked inside a room and they only said one of us could come out, well, John Jones is coming out. She says, I'm willing to bet that would have been me, because I know that I'm a great warrior and I'm literally going to give hell or die trying. And I was clutching onto that thing as hard as I could. She would go on to say that, like, for as much damage as she took against Nunes in the rematch, Nunes couldn't finish her. Well, it's like, yeah, but you got dropped a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a great performance. It's a great performance of your chin and your will. But yeah, I do have some issues, I guess, even more with that card. Yet, I had the Cookie Monster interview on this channel, BCX. If you're interested, I talk with Esparza about strawweight history, about what she wants her legacy to be, motherhood, all that stuff. I enjoy it. Shout out to Shaquille Majori for hooking me up with that interview. I go back way back with the strawweights, but I like some of these storylines, and I like some of these in between fights, and Buckley and Dolidze in that fight. I mean, it's going to end up being kind of cool. But I don't want them to be okay with the standard. That's really, whenever you hear me complain, that's really what I'm saying. Don't lower the standard, because you are the best. You know it. You're the best, okay? But I don't need as a fan to pay to have my name on the canvas, though, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I do have nostalgia for the other eras. Not like necessarily the Mickey's Malt Liquor era, although I like, the rawness of the energy in the air, but obviously the Reebok era. And then we talked about it in the DMs from Donk's question on MK on Monday, that, let's pour one out for that 2007 to kind of 2009 era too. Hell yeah. I mean, that's top shelf GSP / Spider Silva era, That's Lesnar. That's, we are a legitimate, consistent pay-per-view threat. Like, we are here. We have stars. It's incredible. All right. BC, we got to move on here. Yeah. Quick boxing takes. Interesting that Teofimo Lopez, who did drop racially insensitive, in a sense, framing of his language when talking about Gervonta Davis and Terrence Crawford, that he got called out on the Mason Cameron show over that. And then Terrence Crawford was like, if you say stuff like that, like, we're not building a fight, like in the ring where we all get paid and stuff. Like, I'm about that life in person. So you and your dad, like, you act like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How busy am I trying to be, Rafe? A great moment in boxing interview history. Chris Mannix there on the NBC Sports Card. It's like asking that dude. He's like, busy. Yeah. That's how busy this channel gets, right? We were probably somewhere good. Yeah, boxing. Bud was like, I'll just kill you in person. Ultimately, right? So it's like, you can almost argue that that's proof of concept for why Teofimo would do that. And that's what Teofimo told Cameron and Mace, not in a fully acceptable way of like, no, I was only being like racist to those two because I knew it would get them mad and I want to have fights with them. I want to build fights with them. He was kind of honest about that, but honest in a justification of his language in the same way that, that we joke about Mike Perry being 2% black. Like, it's, yeah, okay, we see through it, It feels like, though, that, you can argue that it's getting close. Like, maybe it's working for Lopez, but I don't think Bud wants that fight at all. And in reality, he shouldn't. That's just a money payday. I'd be entertained and intrigued by it for no doubt about it. But I think ultimately here, interesting news coming out that Bud and Sebastian Fundora are in talks at the moment, potentially about it, because we all thought it was going to be Fundora Spence in January. And then suddenly Spence is posting a tweet of him sitting under a tree just chilling when somebody's like, where's Spence and all this? And he's like, I'm just over here. So Bud Crawford, who has the one title in from Madrimov, and Fundora, who has the 2 titles he won in the unification with Tim Tszyu. I didn't have Bud versus Fundora on my bingo card, but as much as I'm going to pick Bud by mid-round knockout without question, yeah, I want to see that shit, because what if Tim Tszyu on October 19th in Orlando takes the IBF strap from Bakram Murtsalayev, a fight I will be calling, by the way, if you didn't hear already, on Amazon Prime. I love that shit. I mean, that's what I'm here for. Like, that's, yeah. All right. What if he wins that belt, and now we have a chance for Bud versus Tim Tszyu for all 4 undisputed championships, and all the 4 titles at 154. You get what I'm trying to say as I speak circles here. That gives Bud the opportunity to become the first the first 3 division undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. It's confusing to say, because it's confusing to, that's what it's good luck. That's what being a boxing fan is, trying to look at all this. But that is some history that matters, and that is absolutely cool. So yes, Bud, if you cannot get Canelo, and it doesn't look right now like you will, unify these titles, because fights on the way out potentially against Fundora and then Tim Tszyu, like, those are crowd pleasers. We want that. I want that. I'll speak for myself. I want that. And one of these days, Jermell Charlo is going to come back, I think. Maybe I'm up on Team Charlo chances more than anybody else. I do kind of give them 9 lives, not like I did to Broner, where I just kind of always believed he can come back and kind of look okay. And at least now he only proved that he can come back. But yeah, I just want to see I don't want to see it go awful for the Charlos. They were pound for pound ish for a bit, and certainly fun to watch, but they got to get their ish together, no doubt about it. All righty. Thank you to everybody. Let's get into the questions. So I'm going to kind of rotate between your live ones and the really thoughtful ones that you guys put out there, which helps. And look at Dave Sandine just coming in here and said, you once said you like peanut butter and cheese sandwiches, BC. We talking American cheese on peanut butter. This is a great topic. This is my topic. The cheese and peanut butter crackers are delicious, but the sandwich sounds nasty. Yeah, everybody says. I've got a runny nose here. Sorry. My whole family was sick for a few days, and now they're good for the most part. But it ran downhill. It caught up with me. Okay, let me get out. All right, I'm gonna fight through. We got this. You're right. So first of all, peanut butter, like in crackers, or the cheese inside the pre-made processed crackers, absolutely great. But no, you were just going American cheese, and you're going with your favorite peanut butter, and you're putting it on. I like it on wheat, to be fair. And if you can toast the wheat bread a little bit more, we're going to go next level with that. But everybody, kids at lunch, when I was in elementary school, my own kids today, they won't now, as 16-year-olds, will laugh in my face. They do laugh in my face. But, I could fool it on them when they were younger, and it always would pass the smell test. They'd be like, this looks weird. They try it. They love it. It just works. It's like me and this here microphone. All I need is one mic now. All right, that's all I need. There we go. Dave, thank you. That's what you got to do. You got to just try it. American cheese, 2 slices of American cheese, coat the entire 1 slice with peanut butter, put it together. And I think what you'll find in your hands is pure happiness. That's the second grader with the Gremlins lunchbox, which I did have. Actually, I had that in first grade. The metal ones, the hard ones with like the carved imprint around like the person's head shape. Dude, I had the Gremlins one. You know how awesome that is? Yeah. So Reclaimer, thank you for the kind notion here. Excited for a vinyl music. Yeah, there's going to be a spinoff. So let's talk about this channel, because you guys are in if you care. And I'm not talking to like, I think a lot. I'm talking to the core. I'm talking about the heartbeat of America, the true. What are we going to call people like that? And this weirdo? No, they're beautiful people. I mean, it goes to a great quote. A great quote. You guys know Josiah Johnson? He used to be part of the band called The Head and the Heart. And then he ended up going through some substance abuse problems and other issues, and he kind of pulled out of the band. But then he went solo a few years ago and put out an incredible debut album. Folk pop meets indie rock, and it's awesome. And he has a quote in the song False Alarms, which is the debut song on the album, and fantastic. Do the work to keep yourself open to other people's magic. That's do the work to keep yourself open to other people's magic. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of like my favorite people are the absolute weirdest people in the world. So, um, this channel so far has been kind of about that, just being like, man, I love my friends in this game. Let's get together and recreate the fine art of great conversation and just, I mean, I could just text and call them and ask how they're doing like a normal friend, you know, or I could, make content for you guys. You guys could sit in and we can all be friends listening to us talk about each other's immune systems and children. 9:15 a.m. with the nice drop in saying, try some AG1 for the immune system. Heard it's great. Okay, pause for a second on the vine. I'm still with you guys. All right. But I take a couple laps. Um, I mean, I know people seems to have proven that AG1 is a scam or to some degree not what they were selling. Like, do I regret that we were trying to sell people to become lords and lairds in MK history? Yeah. Do I regret the predatory loans? Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I fought it back then. Um, that's a long story. We can tell one day. But I still take the AG1. I don't, I'm not a subscriber anymore to it. I do have a backlog of it, but I like it. It makes me feel good. I think there's elements and benefits to it. I don't think it's as ridiculous a scam. Rafe saying, I don't care about his people. I don't care about his channel. I don't care about his life. Rafe basically telling me to F off there by using the beautiful quote of Angel Garcia, soundboard BC and Rafe. Catch us every week on Inside the Box. So back to the original question. Yeah, I would like to do a vinyl / music spinoff of some kind. I'd like to do more work with A. Braun in that category for sure. And I know he's willing, and Aaron Bronstetter, and I love the guy. So yeah, hopefully we can figure out a lane. I will be producing more weird top 5 ones that will probably hit music a few times. And then, this chat is a great chat too. If you like that kind of music, but if you don't, it's got to suck for you. So luckily Mikey puts the chapters in there, and Long Island Luke does it, by the way, for Morning Combat. He does a great job and does it like right after the show ends in the comment section. So shout out to the main card minute. Shout out to what this channel could be. I mean, hooray for school, as Billy Madison said one time. Shout out to what this channel can be. Okay, a bunch of weird people getting together, and then Tuki gets her shoes at the end of the day. All right, there you go. Let's get into these questions here. We got more Indiana love. Yes. Yeah, collab with Danny. Yeah, Anthony, I love Danny Segura. All right, I love it. Yeah, shout out to something to show your grandkids. What all these donations that's going to pay for their life. Yeah, Danny Segura is a good dude. Really had fun with him on the MMA beat, and I've definitely already I wrote one time for CBS Sports a oral history on Jake Paul pulling the head off of Floyd's head and Floyd's team beating him up ahead of that Logan fight. I mean, who cares, right? But Danny was there, like right on top of it. He was like the best voice in that. Shout out to Danny Cigar. I love that guy. I didn't see what you said there, Long Island. Can we get that one more time? It's like a flowing conversation. He'll catch the rest after work. Yeah, keep on rambling. That's what this guy does. Okay. In circles. There we go. Hey, I want to get some of these really good questions mixed in that you guys talked about here the last few days on the YouTube channel in that comment section. Look, I barely know how to access this stuff, but I'm learning quickly. Okay. Luke's not fully right when he says, like, he makes it seem like I couldn't, unlock my phone. No, I got a clue on a lot of things. I just know my limitations. Like, if something breaks in the house, you're not going to want me to work on it. Okay. I know my limitations in life. All right. That's where we're at with that. But I can figure anything out if I have to, except for fixing things in this house and cooking. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I try on the lawn though. I've got a few pluses in this game. Let's go to @underdogs2472. BC, if you were managing the careers of Ryan Garcia and Conor McGregor, what would you be telling them respectively? Love the channel. Keep up the great content. All right. I watched all the same clips you guys did of that Conor McGregor live stream. So every time I see that, which has really been, I mean, that's an extreme condensed version of it, but we've seen that for like 3 years now. If we really wake up and smell the coffee on social media, mixed in with like arrest and crazy moment here, and oh, he almost came back here, or then he did come back, but then he didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of been that. I would say that, like, from this vantage point, I do believe he will come back, and I do believe he'll go through the motions one more time and get into a camp and try really hard. but it's going to end disastrously for him. He's going to fall apart in there quick. And he, even at his peak, in certain situations, he could fall apart. Like that was the one weakness he had, that implosion button. And Nate found it, right? And it's not all, you know, Khabib found it for sure too. But you can't call him a front runner because of the Nate rematch. He put all of that shit to bed. I mean, that's a manly performance, whether, you know, even if you scored it for Nate. But I'd tell him, like, there's two roads. There's the rockstar partying road, which, you know, it could go really badly for you, but maybe you're Keith Richards and maybe it won't. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, you'll be that guy, that boisterous guy, and you own the restaurant, and there's this business, and you got 600 million there, and you'll probably have BKFC here, and then the August McGregor suit. I'd like to wear one of those suits, by the way. I'd like to try one of those on. That man does know how to dress, for as crazy as he is. But if there's anything left in the tank, you're never going to be able to produce it in the addictive life that you're living right now. I mean, God, it used to be like a running joke, or then it was like, yeah, but I got plausible deniability to say that's just his personality. And yeah, you know, I like a little fun times too, right? But no, that guy likes a lot of fun times. So if fun times is the future, that's cool, dude. Like, if you want, like, I know, like, people argue that, like, we don't hold against great fighters when they linger too long and pile up L's, and I always want to push back on that, but I'm really, what is the fuel of me pushing back? It's the romanticism of wanting someone like Andre Ward kind of did, or Khabib, like, to walk away at a certain point where you know they still had left, and maybe they didn't answer all the questions and fight everybody you wanted them to, but they did enough to have a certain argument. Like, there is that part of me that, like, obviously wish Roy Jones didn't have the extended coda that he had, of course, right? I mean, if Roy Jones would have retired after, I say this all the time, if he would have retired after winning that heavyweight title against John Ruiz, having only the one loss in the DQ to Montel Griffith, that he said the same thing last week, that he won back with as vicious a first round knockout performance, and maybe the best post-fight extended, like, promo that he delivered to Larry Merchant after, with the whole, you know it, with the whole, like, he made me do it. I didn't want to bring out the RJ. You know, I didn't want to bring out that version that my crazy father created in the barnyard there, chasing the cocks, right? Like, damn, if he walks away at that point, you're like, it's like him and Sugar Ray Robinson and, you know, Henry Armstrong, or whoever, you know, whatever's your flavor on who's the greatest fighter of all time. I mean, debate me on that. Seriously, debate me on that, right? But, like, it's rare that somebody's going to go out at that perfect time, and then it's rare that somebody's able to even do what Floyd did, or even Marciano. Yeah, Marciano kind of went out perfectly too, obviously. And then, you know, Floyd controlled it, but won. He won the game at the end of the day. He absolutely did it. Calzaghe to some degree too, but Conor. Yeah, Dave, thank you for jumping in there. Yeah, well, it depends what you like. You know, Luke has a proven track record of being really good in this space, and I do learn a lot from him, and he's been very supportive. So shout out to Luke Thomas, big fan of that guy. We have our ups and downs like anyone else there. But to close, I'm telling you, Conor, I think too much damage is done. Meaning, like, just choose the other road. Just choose the road you're going. Just realize that. Because I do believe you could have fought with the broken toe. Not like I'm saying, like, you have to, or I'm going to judge you for it. But the Conor of old, you know, moves on, and, you know, this Conor didn't. And I heard a lot of reasons probably why. So I think we'd celebrate him more if we just kind of were completely on terms of that. But no, he's gonna try, and he's probably gonna end up taking a bare knuckle fight when he's out of the deal. And I mean, it could be spectacularly gross and sloppy, and I can't get enough of it. We'll find out. Ryan is a different sort of thing, because on one hand, you know, he's acted the part of deplorable human being for a while, unpredictable, but he's also, as much as it annoys us, like, mastered the art of attention grabbing in a very young and important demographic, and by proxy, you know, everyone else around, even if you're like, man, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, and that is going to be, for as long as he can keep it up as an elite fighter, that's always going to be super marketable, because it's always going to lead toward a big fight, and you're going to be able to cheer against him. And it's, you know, that's boxing promotion 101, and he has really figured it out. But I would tell him that through all this craziness, I mean, look, can we stop? I mean, that dude had some N-word problems too. We got to get away from that, Ryan. Okay. You got to get away from a lot of things right now. But if I was advising him, I'd say, look, I know like it's probably not possible now to, get him on a straight and narrow. And I think that he showed in the Haney fight to some degree when things are dicey behind the scenes, like he did rise to the occasion in a big way. Not that that's the preferred method of living for anybody, but I would just say, put your body first. Stay in the gym. Like don't get bloated. Don't put the kind of damage on your body that is going to make you older faster than you should be, because what makes him elite in a lot of ways is, at the end of the day, the danger of the combination of his speed and power allows him to be in any fight he's in. And I underestimated that going into the Haney fight. Not because of the Tank fight, because the Tank fight played out how I thought it would. Tank is a master in there, and so is Haney. But I think Tank's how he sets up his shots, and he happens to have nuclear power when he does that. It's different than Haney. But I really thought Haney was going to walk in there, whether Ryan was crazy or not. And like a lot of people, stop him late in that fight. I really thought that. I think I was giving Haney too much credit, and I was definitely underestimating Ryan. But Ryan can still be great in some great fights. But he's got to be careful in a lot of ways. I'd be careful not get arrested, beat up. I mean, they're all careful in a lot of areas, but I just keep that body as healthy, keep in the gym, keep active as possible. Even through a suspension like this, just be as active behind the scenes as physically possible. Not that I'm cheering for him in that regard. There's a lot of reasons to be like, it's like Luke said about this whole Haney Garcia lawsuit thing. It's like, man, you're making Ryan Garcia like if you're going to get on Haney, then you've got to also kind of, it's like making Ryan the baby face in that regard, which feels weird. So let's keep these questions going. I'm going to be quicker. I'm going to be in and out on these. Let's go. From at Matthew Thomas 970. I got another one here. It says, when Dana retires one day, do you see a possibility for the next guy in charge to make all the changes we want to see? Cross promotion fights, more super fights, big time entrances, better posters, better marketing, more panache, more spectacle, more innovation. Wow, Matthew Thomas, away with words there. Thank you. No, because there's already an argument. There's already people who are believing that the Endeavor takeover has led to the point where, Ari Emanuel's really calling the shots. And obviously in the hierarchy he is, but there's a new advanced thinking. Has Dana's role diminished a lot in increments since 2016, since the sale, to the point now where a big reason why he might be so aggressive in the lane of power slap and now in the lane of boxing is not just he wants to do more and wants to round out his own personal, resume and legacy, but is it not what it was, with his best friends gone? He seems to be happy in a large part, but he also seems to be bored. So I would think that if he was removed, let's say, a lot of people think Hunter Campbell is being groomed to be the successor and may already be doing a lot of the things, especially if you read the, what is it? The Substack, what the Bloody Elbow became, what I'm talking about. Is it the MMA Draw? It's a little bit sensational at times, but it's a thought provoker. And, yeah, so it might be more of the same is really what I'm trying to say, except for the end part of that question, in my opinion, which is the cross promotion fights, more super fights, ring big time. I think it'll get more theatrical. I think we will continue to see the full effect of TKO, of what they can do in kind of, leveraging the power of all of their complementary brands, which in this case is UFC, WWE, and then whatever will become of their boxing movement. So there's a line. I hope they don't cross it. Even when I see the gold gloves in there for the, I love the idea of making the championship fights seem so instantly identifiable. That's why I was never against the yellow canvas on UFC 200, or I think they used a different color at 300, if I'm correct as well. It makes it stand out. I used to always say that about WWE production. It's make sure I know when it's happening, and whether it's a change in your lighting, a change in your ring aprons, or whatever, that this is a pay-per-view and this isn't just another episode of Raw or SmackDown. I want that feeling too in that regard. So there's more I think they can come up with and evolve. And I don't know what certain things Dana is in the way of. You do hear him say, like you said, he doesn't want to do cross promotion fights. there's a lot of things that he doesn't like, and he's molded his opinion into what this is now, and it's still fantastic. We just want it to be consistently that all the time with the financial success they've had, no doubt about it. But it's really down to me, like, okay, so if Hunter replaced Dana, if that ever happened, or let's say Dana went all in on boxing or what have you, anything can happen in life. Is Hunter the public face, though, too? That's where other people have always wanted someone like Chael or DC, and maybe they're both flawed in their own ways. I guess what I'm trying to say, as long as it's still in this TKO era, not even the Endeavor era, specifically the TKO era, I think we're going to continue to do more sphere-like things, take more chances, which I don't think is a bad thing when done appropriately and smartly, for sure. I do think you'll see more pomp and circumstance. I mean, when you see Anthony Joshua fight in a stadium with that many people, it does give you a feeling akin to a rock concert, and or The Rock walking out at WrestleMania with a flamethrower like he did in Dallas at 32, like those type of moments and feel. I think you're going to end up getting more of that, and it's going to come close to that line that may piss some people off for sure, but it's all going to be interconnected in one big family, and it's going to be big business. And I think if that does, though, lead to what you asked for, cross promotional fights under this current model and leadership role, no. But if somebody ended up replacing Dana and had a larger voice at the table, and it was best for business, TKO business, to do stuff like that, yeah, I think that stuff would start to happen. I think whatever's going to be best for business. I think that, I mean, I got a review coming out maybe tomorrow on the Netflix docu-series Mr. McMahon. A lot of people, you reached out and DM me and asked for that. That's cool. I did it. And darling, I was born a rambling man, so it was long too. So tune out pretty quickly if you're not interested. But if you are, yeah, I mean, we're going deep here. But what they've become, WWE, that kind of, I think it works with what TKO and Endeavor's trying to do, and it was the perfect acquisition in that regard. And I think you're going to see a lot more of things start to look more alike and more like the TKO brand on there. And if that leads, it's always going to be best for business. That's the correlation I'm trying to make. It's always going to be, like Vince was a dirty dude, and boy, did that 6-part documentary series break it down. And maybe not enough. Maybe they should have broke it down more. Tune in tomorrow, see what BC says. But it showed like how genius Vince was in building all that. Dana took a lot from, like, there's a parallel in a lot of ways in that regard. So it did always make, I guess, more sense in the end that they would join up, even though that when they joined up, it was like, oh my God, this is so weird. But I think that's going to be the major culprit and dictation of change, moving forward. Boy, I can talk into circles until people just tune out. All right. What else we got here, Chin? Yeah, the CTE, you got it. CTE. I told Mikey, I'm like, can you invent something in here that will alert my eyes that when I've lost it, right? Like the oar fell in the water and I'm just sitting out here, you can remind me which direction I was going, like a compass or something. Great question, Dave, and thank you for injecting a little of life in there. You've always wondered, am I a Modest Mouse guy? Yes, I am, but it's still in progress and it's been a long time coming. Explain that, BC. You ever think somebody sucks and then you find out that they love a certain band and you're like, man, I actually kind of like that band, but that person sucks so much that band, yeah. So, that happened to me with Bush, by the way. It kind of happened to me with Modest Mouse. I was working at a guitar camp over the summer, and this one chick with Montana license plates was a monster Modest Mouse band and only played their stuff. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to hate that band. But then I went to Austin City Limits Festival in 2004 in the park there in Austin, and I did see like half of their show from a distance. I'm like, oh man, this and that was that Good News for People Who Love Bad News tour, which was an incredible album that's going through an anniversary right now. But I hadn't explored more, and I think until Bronstetter, who is awesome, by the way, hooked me. I think he sent me a copy of their second record, the one with the white cover that sort of speaks a larger theme to like the breaking down of Midwestern morals and the expansion of strip malls. I mean, the name is not going to come to the top of my head, but that two-sided record is an absolute masterpiece. Okay, maybe it's not like drop everything and go listen to it now, but for the era that it came up in the early, in the 90s there no one else is making that type of exact, right? So there's a lot more going on, and I've flirted with their best, with the other work that I didn't mention. But I haven't done the dance yet. I'm about ready to go in, and I know they're touring in the area. So I think they recently toured, but they were opening for somebody that I didn't necessarily want to see. That you get into that quagmire too. I mean, I've left before and not even seen the main event if I didn't want it. We've all done that. But yeah, I think I'm going to be a big Modest Mouse guy, Dave, moving forward. So get fired up if you care. And probably, you probably don't. But let's see what else we got going on here, because you guys really hit me with some thought provokers. Okay. At Eric Bolden 2584, have you ever had a friend that you had to stop hanging out with for whatever reason? And how did you manage it? Oh yeah, of course. I think you're asking it seems from the standpoint of like, maybe it was you, right? And maybe they kind of, we've been on both sides of those equations in life, right? But what I think you have to come to realize is the answer is always to try to do the hardest thing to do, which is look at your life from from the distance. It's hard. You can't get out of the way. There's too many trees and stuff and delta hates and stuff, but when you're able to take a step back, I think you do end up realizing that like people come into your life for seasons and usually for a great purpose, and they can learn a lot from you. You can learn a lot from them, and it's not going to be a meant to be thing. And that can go, and sometimes that works in lamenting the loss of a romantic partner, but I think sometimes it's more about friends who can come and go. I mean, if you work with somebody and you're super close and then you're not, you're going to kind of in some ways lose that original umbilical cord, but yeah, I just look at it like, yeah, sometimes people fade away and it's on them, and sometimes I know it's on me, but I also just try to look at it as like, I know I'm solid. I can call, I can get that person on my YouTube channel. We can talk about weird stuff for 30 minutes or less because I got a show just like that. Yeah, I can do that. But I know they're available and they're there. It's just not our season to be intertwined, right? I think I think I gotta read more about codependency. I think sometimes you gotta pull yourself out of those traps. You know what I'm saying? People come and go, and you're gonna come and go and float just the same. But then they're gonna flush the toilet at the end. We'll find out what happens, right? So there you go. All right, another question here from at um oh yeah, dude, I mean, these people are being so polite. This is unbelievable. So damn, I love the Grateful Dead. Right, right. I didn't really know that I'd stumbled back in this hard. Well, until I went to the Sphere and saw Dead and Company, right? But now I'm back. I'm back in a big way. And I'm going to tell you real quick, if you've got time, user 7-10, is that your if you're if you're incarcerated, all right, BC cares, right? If don't nobody else care, I'd say that I used to almost start their career with those two records when they did shift their sound in an aggressive way from psychedelic rock in a more darker, haunting, creative sound to an Americana, which was their roots and a lot of Jerry's roots for sure. And I think they were also adapting with the times at those moments. Think of the first Crosby, Stills and Nash record and the harmonies. Those guys were all friends and all hanging out. That I almost always started their career with these two consecutive 5-star, almost impeccable in their own way, each Working Man's Dead and American Beauty. And American Beauty is a little bit sweeter, right? It's it's almost like a greatest hits record. It is a little bit, more just like that, where you got to work a little bit more, but like the gold on Working Man's Dead is just, I mean, that slow, moody folk, and I mean, build, the way they build to High Time or Candyman, which, one of those might be on the other one, but they were recorded so close together. I always thought like, well, this is the real Dead that I love. This, and then obviously the what they really are, the live version, which you have to pick what era is the best to you. And I mean, no one will ever be wrong in saying 72, particularly in Europe. I mean, that they were just an unnatural, they were shape shifting, they were everything then. But some people really like that 77, 78 bubble when they came back from the hiatus. But I really don't like Donna Jean. I'm sorry. If you put me in prison for saying that, I don't like what she adds to the sound, especially in those years. The Brent Midland era, on the other hand, which coincided perfectly with Jerry's, almost resurrection that he went through physically and mentally and spiritually, probably, right, to some degree. And Brent gave that band life, right? And then, if I'm going to be particular with you, the 1980 tour that had those acoustic sets, the Reckoning live album, which could change your life right now. It's not an exaggeration. That run, that also might be the best. But I almost disqualified the before Working Man's Dead and American Beauty era, the psychedelic run, as being, not them, or them in embryo form trying to figure it out and put it together. And it was part of that larger theme I often tell you, if you care to listen. I don't know if you actually do, though, that I had underrated, excuse me, psychedelic rock in general for way too long and so many decades before I, recently I'm like, man, this is the genre. I mean, that's the best. And what the best thing that happened to me as a Dead fan, being at Dead and Company at the Sphere, outside of just the incredible, almost life-changing, visceral experience, and that's really not an exaggeration, seriously, it was a special night, was it opened my eyes to that era that I thought I didn't like. And you can frame it if you want as the Pigpen era, which it is, but it's really just the sound of who they were, still kind of emerging from the old days as the Warlocks and, being the house band at the LSD parties and all of that. I just didn't know how awesome those albums actually were. So that's where I've been lately. American, what is it? Yeah, the one with so the debut one, the self-titled one, amazing. The second one with that really weird name, that's when it's the same way going both ways, like kayak, right? What the hell is that word called? No one, it probably begins with an O, but whatever. And then the third one there, where they took so many chances in the studio, it's ridiculous, and they merged live tracks with studio tracks and just did some of the weirdest experimentation. Now with the headphones, particularly in the eighth row, boy, do I get that. Boy, do I know how great they actually were back then too. And I missed it. And then I had extensive live shows from that era, but they were raw and they were loose, and I maybe didn't give them the love they fully deserved. Who that band was is almost completely different from who that band ever was again. But they were fucking awesome then too. I know you didn't ask that, but I had to tell you that's where I am right now. American Anthem, right? Isn't that what it's called? Or Anthem of the Seas. That's a cruise ship. I can probably look it up and not look like an asshole, but I'm trying to find it in real time. Let's keep this going though. You asked me of the two. I got to go Working Man's Dead. I got to do it. I got to do it. All right. I mean, damn. Direwolf's on that one, right? When it just kicks off to start it. I mean, that's a pocket. That pocket is so, for a band that's almost always about the live experience and making the studio experience a minor detail in their career. Although I think that's underselling. I mean, I think that's, not taking into account how good some of those 70s records, even some of the 80s, actually are. But there's that divide there. There's no divide on Working Man's Dead in American Beauty, and that version of them in the studio being able to produce that, which they really worked on to be able to get those harmonies down, and it worked. It was some of the greatest moments in American music history. Thank you very much. All right. Didn't mean to linger here. Great question here, Matt. All right. Great question. He says, were you a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis guy? I was a Sega Genesis guy. Damn right I was, right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay? And I don't have an issue with the Super NES. But it was, because like until recently, when my kids forced me to become an Xbox guy because I stumbled into Fortnite, and man, it's still itching. So I'm sorry, judge me. I'm still itching. Still love it. All right. We're a PS family. You draw those lines. You're a Coke guy, McGregor. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a Pepsi guy. No, really, I respect the Super Nintendo. All right. Jeff Bogus that's my best friend. He had the Super Nintendo. I respect it. I like it. But I'll tell you what, the best game in video game history is still NHL 94 on Sega Genesis, and it's better than the Super NES version. It is. I think there was a element of, the Super NES had a little bit too many buttons for that era. You can argue against that now, especially now in the Xbox and beyond era, but I mean, I figured out I'm comfortable now with the Xbox controller at my age. You know, sometimes I can get loose and turn 4 like a Great American Hero there, the number 3 car. But Sega it felt better. It felt like you had more control over what it simplified it perfectly. The A, B, and C, right? The evolution from the Nintendo 8-bit pad to that, the evolution in graphics, and the sports games were so good it was ridiculous. I mean, there's some weird games. Me and Bogo used to play the best, weirdest game ever. Jerry Glanville, the coach of the 1991 Atlanta Falcons, which was one of my favorite football teams ever. I mean, MC Hammer was on the sidelines, right? It was fantastic. Evander Holyfield, Deion Sanders, it was great. He had this medieval game called Pigskin Footbrawl, where it's like open field rugby in the Middle Ages, and you can like stab people like that, you know, in the vein of Arch Rivals, the great basketball game where you can just knock people out left and right. That was great. Those are the type of games that when I think of with Sega, you know, you don't get the Mario experience, but you know, I was still playing Sega like even like 10 years ago. I finally threw it out. I was going to sell it, but it just, you know, it's one of those like, yeah, it'll work, but I got to make love to it first. I got to perform some, you know, I got to blow on it a while. I got to play. I would have to tape the wires in a way, you know, to be able to play it 30 years after the fact. You have to tape the wires in a way that would keep the spark going. And, you know, I'm sure I could have bought a used, more modern version of it, but is that really living? No, you got to do it the old decrepit way. But Sega had, man, that boxing game, the greatest heavyweights one for that time. That was insane. That was great. And you know, all the baseball ones were incredible on that too. Yeah, I mean, you can have Super NES and you can shove it up your ass. All right. Yeah. Shout out to Sega. There we go. Win one for the people over here. From at Run Dem Cheeks 1775, which is just a great name. Wow. Run Dem Cheeks. Yeah. Favorite cover song. You know, I'm thinking about concocting a top 5 on this because I love this conversation a lot. But even if you don't love this, I think you'll understand this answer and maybe even like it, but maybe not love it because the song TV has helped at times the song to be overplayed, but not in my mind. The best cover in rock history and my favorite is With a Little Help from My Friends by Joe Cocker and the Grease Band. I mean, you know, Wonder Years intro, yes. But the version of Woodstock, which they finally made into an actual album that I downloaded on Tidal, and it's awesome. It's as emotional a performance vocally as anything that's ever happened. But just the way that Cocker was able to take already pretty good songs and just, you know, revive them, turn them into something that they never were before, or even just take them and make them just a little bit better, like his cover of Dear Landlord by Bob Dylan. It just put it over the top. It's freaking awesome. Or The Letter by the Box Tops. God, Joe Cocker could change your life if you get in that groove. I mean, it was a short extreme prime, in my opinion, but that prime couple records was insane. And then you go back and listen to the Beatles version, and it's quirky in its own way. And I don't know how Joe was able to turn that around. I really don't. And create such a power, emotional, screaming. Yeah, man. Right. Wow. That's the answer right there. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Okay. Let me catch up. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. There we go. There we go. Thank you to everybody for being great people. I appreciate you. Did we show this guy already? Oh yeah, appreciate that guy too. Let's keep this going. I got another good one for you from at This Opinion Will Expire. It will, because you're going to change constantly as a person, aggressively. All right. So make sure you don't get tattoos that you're going to regret. But from at This Opinion Will Expire, your questions with Jed. Wow, we're seriously some of the best I've seen in this industry. Well, thank you. How do you brainstorm and think through your questions for these segments? I appreciate that. And I've definitely shared, I guess, at length in the past, like my philosophy on interviews, which is really built upon the idea of getting somebody off of their inner default script, you know, especially if they have to do a bunch of interviews on the same topic. But I think that mix is good with, and I appreciate you saying that, but everybody's got a different interviewing style. You know, mine was built on a lot of failure to kind of you know, it's like I can't imagine, because I don't have the art brain in the same way, how somebody can like sculpt, ice and make it look like an angel or something, or carve wood. Like I just can't do that. But I seem to understand how sometimes it's the right touch on a question, even a question that people have asked all the time, but with the right emotion or something that can catch somebody off guard. Or really, ultimately, what I'm trying to do is keep them on their toes, really quickly alternate themes, build them up and then not tear them down, but challenge them. Or so I try to mix my natural curiosity, which is pretty high in when it comes to people. When I worked at Stop and Shop, I say it all the time, like, the refrain from these older people who are probably just, regular good people with families, but they're not there to tell me about their first love and what happened, you know what I mean? Or about why their first husband left. But I was pretty interested in people. I still am. So I guess I try to concoct questions that I would want to know. I look at everybody as having a story. I guess I'm somebody that's sort of like always, you know, had a working monologue in my head of my own life story, and how you would frame that, as weird as that is. So I kind of look at everybody else's life in that same way and be like, I want to try to connect those dots. I want to try to figure you out. I think that's the best way to the first Mike Perry interview is my favorite. Yes, yes. I look back on that. I do, you do have to take the L when you're wrong, and you change your style or your opinions on things. I mean, when I got Mike Perry to hang up on me on that CBS Sports podcast and tell me off, like, I was wrong. I was out of line. I asked him a loaded question about his ex-wife that an ex-teammate said that basically said she was a distraction. And, ever since she left, Mike's never been the same and been the best fighter he's ever been. You're setting that up to get for him to hit the pinata, and the candy's going to go it's going to go somewhere, right? Something's going to fall into your lap. I don't want to be that guy. And I've been that guy. And sometimes you stumble into accidentally being that guy, but I don't want to derive the oil that way. No. But I was, I guess, hungry at that moment to try to have a memorable interview with him. And I played a little bit with his psyche, and that's, that maybe that's unfair, but I understand him and I respect him. So I think he's so cool that our subsequent interviews have been very interesting. I never know what I'm going to get, and he sets me up nowadays to deliver a joke and make me feel like he's mad at me when he isn't. And he's now playing me like a fiddle, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to watch. But that was a great soundbite when he was like, fuck you, CBS. Why don't you go get your own wife? And, and click. It's, Mikey's always done a good job. Mikey Mormel, the fantastic producer to the stars, of kind of pulling those moments aside, because I'll forget to, of like, then you can have this weird reel of people telling you to fuck off. But no, you can definitely be, that can be your aim to try to become that guy. That's not what I'm trying to be. I'm just willing to throw the ball inside, so to speak, against anybody I'm interviewing, to attempt to take some form of control at that point in the interview. Because if I hope, steer you into a direction you didn't think you were going to be. And that's not to expose you. That's to free you, unlock you from whatever. Again, like, I know what I'm going to say for the most part. If you have me on your podcast, like, BC, how'd you get here? But I kind of know, I know what I'm going to say. It's up to you to get me off that script. You know what I mean? Everybody's sort of like that. So, you got to throw inside. I mean, you watched that Greg Maddux documentary? I finally watched it, the MLB Network one. It was great. And I wasn't, even though he played on the Braves and I was a big Mets fan, I never hated him, because he was just such a cerebral achiever, because you could tell he was somebody who gave everything he had, and, lived and died with with wanting to win and do whatever he could. And, I have no idea why I'm talking about Greg Maddux right now, but it was probably a really good setup, and I was going to slam it home. But yeah, Greg Maddux rules, by the way. There you go. This is one's from Two Changs. Is that? So Two Changs rules. He lives in Vegas. Big boxing guy. Love that guy. I think he's a big Reddit fan too. I already know that. Who's your favorite James Bond and your least favorite? I've not seen a ton. It's like I watched a bunch of Bond movies as a kid without framing, like, what's this one called? You know what I mean? So I remember moments, or you're like, no, it's that one where this happened. I'm like, oh yeah, I did see that. But I mean, I'm a Connery guy. Connery's the best, without question. I mean, like, Pierce Brosnan tried hard, but that wasn't it. And whatever that was, it the first I saw one in the theater with my wife when we were dating. It may have been like '06, whatever one came out that I was like, man, that one ruled. Like that, it surprised me that I could be that into a Bond movie at that point. I owe it to the franchise to go back and actually know it and not be on a live chat here like an asshole and have no point of reference. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to answer for that for you, two Changs on that level, but that's what I got for you. Let's keep the party going here. I got to jump in. This is from at Tacoma Aroma. And he put in a question of any core NBA memories of yours attached to Dikembe Mutombo, who unfortunately passed due to brain cancer the other day. I think it was what, 58, something like that. What did he mean to you as someone who grew up watching 90s hoops? And what did he mean to the league in general? Great question, Tacoma Aroma. That's a hell of a name right there. So I was a Georgetown College fan, like hardcore. Like, I grew up in Connecticut, a UConn Husky hater, which wasn't like planned. It was just that I think I got into college basketball the year before the Calhoun era really got good in 1990. And the college tournament game that got me to become a fan was ultimately that final 89 Georgetown Duke with Leitner and Mourning going head to head as freshmen. So when Dikembe was a big part of the love I had for Big East basketball, and my friends were all UConn or Syracuse or very rarely a St. John's fan. But it was hardcore, and Dikembe was awesome. My favorite memory of him, like because he did, like when he first started to evolve at Georgetown from just a ridiculous shot blocker and like menacing force to like he might be an NBA player. I never thought he would become who he ultimately did. Like, even though he's known, for defensive player of the year and stuff like that, and his scoring went down consistently from his rookie year. I mean, he was a 16-point per game rookie center in 92, and that's not nothing. I actually love to go back on YouTube and watch that era where he was a main part of the offense and working through him. But he was raw at Georgetown and would come out and pull plays out of his ass and it just make it look like it was supposed to happen. Do you remember in 91, his final year, the final 8 game at Arizona against UNLV? So it's that UNLV team that was going for the repeat with Larry Johnson and Augman. And they won the game. Georgetown made it close. I think they lost by 8. But there's that ridiculous sequence where Dikembe comes down on the fast break one-on-one off of a steal, like pulls up for a free throw line jump shot, and then gets his own rebound and dunks it home. And it's like he just would do random, ridiculous stuff like that. But, I had no idea the person he was during those days and who he, showed himself to be as charitable and as a caring and loving person. Is just incredible. Just a remarkable man. But yeah, I loved him pretty much through every NBA stop. I do think the best of him he ever was that last stretch with the Hawks before going to Philly midway through the 01 season where he helped the Iverson team to the finals and, was almost getting like MVP votes in the background because that was, that was the X factor for that team to be legit. But those last couple of years before that with the Hawks, particularly the role he played in that sometimes forgotten because of the NBA All-Star game, which I used to protect as something I loved, even though everyone hated it and it sucked. Nowadays, it sucks. I mean, it really sucks now. Like no one's trying at all. But like that 01 game where the East made that big comeback, led by Iverson, the MVP, who would win the MVP that season as well, and drop that 48 in game 1 of the finals and step over Tyronn Lue and break that Lakers unbeat. Like, we thought the Lakers were going to run the table in the playoffs that year. They were, I mean, Shaq was just ridiculous. They were looking like it. Mutombo in that All-Star game with 18 rebounds. And even when Kobe hit those back-to-back jumpers in the final 30 seconds, which kept the West in it, Mutombo was rotating off those screens and was like in his face at the 3-point line. That version of Mutombo, I think, was probably the best. And he was elite first team. I believe he had at least one first team All NBA, but so many defensive player of the year notions, the ability to stay in the league that long and still be effective. Like even when he was just a body at the end, with like the Knicks and stuff, I mean, he would still do things out of nowhere. You'd be like, damn, Mutombo, and he's hilarious. And they got his personality across in the right ways on like talk shows at night and stuff like that. That one hurts. I didn't realize he was sick, and maybe it was kept in hush. But who wants to sex Mutombo is a whole entry in his legacy. But so is the real man and the charitable side, and how many names he had, which was always awesome too. And yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt, man. I love that guy. he yeah, don't forget he also was a late pickup on the '03 Nets, and they used him in the finals there against Tim Duncan and the Spurs in a losing effort there. That was Steven Jackson's rookie year. That was ultimately the stamp on his passport that made him and made him a permanent NBA player. He had an incredible finals there. Shout out to Stack. Did they really get Kamala, man? That's wild. BC, we have it. Yeah, hit it hard. Hit it hard. I mean, just hit me with the horns, Monty. All right. What do you got for me, Mikey? Oh, so Alan W is an OG of the MK experience. Shout out to him. He says, "B," and thank you, Alan. Rock on, okay, with your C on there. BC, how have you not seen any of the Deadpool movies? Yeah, I'm failing you people. You're like a washed version of Ryan Reynolds, and that's what you guys said. Remember, like 3 years ago in MK lore, you and Luke talked, you as a family, as a dysfunctional, loving unit, and Luke talked me into the idea that, like, if I'm going to break into that world, which I'm not. I remember I took my son to see, what was that movie that I fought for? Like, it wasn't that bad. And Luke was like, that's the worst movie of all time. I don't even remember which one that was, to be fair with you, because when I took my son to see Black Adam with The Rock, it turned me off on that genre so much. So I'm like, I'm never going back. But I did try whatever the first Deadpool movie, because you guys said, no, that's your superhero. Like, you'll vibe with it. You got that. Apparently, I got that Ryan Reynolds in me. And we really do look alike. It's crazy. But it wasn't time. I tried. I think I watched a half hour. It wasn't my time. All right, that genre I really don't like. But Alan, I'll take one for this team here. Which one? Which one am I supposed to watch? The first one. I'll commit to it. I'll watch it. I'll get back to you. Okay, more fuel for this fire. We got something to talk about there, right, Bonnie? Right. Let's give them something to talk about, right? She must have been talking about people are talking like an affair. People are talking about people. Sounded scandalous. I loved it. From Street 1234. Oh, dude, thank you, brother. Big ups, BC. Ever listen to Crash Kings? Their debut album is a great one, and it plays through from end to end. No, I have not. You know what? Let me take a note on that so I don't blow you off on that. But Crash Kings, I'll check it out. I'll see. I'll see if it passes the sniff test. You know what I mean? But good tunes is good tunes. So I really appreciate you on that one. Maybe it'll be right up my alley. Wow, Tu Cheng just right back in. That guy's fantastic. Do I rank Sugar Ray Robinson and Henry Armstrong as 1-2 in the all-time pound for pound? I don't think that's a wrong answer. I also like when people have Joe Louis up really high in that too. I think Joe Louis is the number one heavyweight, and it's him or Ali. It really is. Let's be fair. I don't. Yeah, I do though. Try to am I a historian to some degree? Yeah, I'm not an extreme historian. There are guys that are amazing fan. I worked with one, Corey Erdman, when I worked with on that Dublin UFC show. That guy's a historian. I love that. I come in and out sometimes on that. When you find out that Sugar Ray Robinson's absolute peak as welterweight champion was like largely undocumented, like there's no footage of most of 98% of it, it is tough to, in my opinion, to have this full educated take exactly on who should be one or two or three in a all-time pound. At some point you do have to draw a line and say, what am I capable of actually knowing? I do. My history tends to focus around the heavyweight division. When I do, I love the Rummy's Corner, which Luke always shouts about. It is a great channel. Like that lineage breakthrough they do of the passing of the torch. It couldn't be more better entertainment. I love that shit. But yeah, Robinson, I do think though, within this debate, as hard as it is, Robinson's got to be one. That's what the ones that know say, and then when you do watch, especially you can really only watch, I guess, the middleweight run, but he had it all. He had it all, man. He was everything. And Armstrong had an ability to be everything and be, a champion in different weight classes at the same time back when that meant, certainly a lot more than it means now in the proliferated era of too many belts. So that's fine. But you're gonna get the hashtag Harry Grebheads that are gonna, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can make a case obviously at this level for a lot of these guys, but I think as much as it's hard to compare eras, especially when we talk greatness in heavyweights, because of how large the heavyweights are today and also athletic and quick. And it's like, how is Marciano going to contend with Fury just physically? How is that? So they're like 2.5 divisions apart. Like, how is that even possible? I think also what makes it the hardest thing to compare eras is it was like I mean, these guys were fighting an extreme amount of time. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, like these great fighters are retiring with like 40 fights, you know, sometimes less. Like Andre Ward's got less than that. You know, I mean, he was a fine artiste and he painted that masterpiece in the end. But these guys, it's harder to compare when these guys are fighting all the time. You know, they'll have a really hard fight and you know, a fight of the year barn burner, a death defying survival, and rematch in 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like that's what it was. They got to make that money, and that was sort of the, you know, that's what pros do. That's what men do. It's a much different era now, but those two had the goods to be in this conversation on that level for sure. Thank you to Cheng. So a real boxeo head, like that guy will show for the sport, and I can respect that. From RM, thank you for being a friend. You know, travel down the yeah. BC, what is your overall favorite sports team? It's a very good question because there's been a lot of thank you RM for being a nice man. There's or you know whatever you are going to identify at RM. All right, I'm going to identify with you. My fandom got robbed a lot from fantasy sports, especially football, from working at ESPN for 12 years, especially years when I'm a page one editor on, you know, on the website. And, you know, that's the hot seat. You got it, you know, and you're covering every sport every second. I mean, dude, it is a it is it's a lifestyle working there. I mean, it is, you are plugged in like a crack cocaine level, but you know, the fallout is it's hard to like cheer for teams after that. You know, it's hard to have that love affair anymore. As is, I think it's hard that, you know, grow up and my kids aren't into it, sports, you know, really deep at any level. It's a different time. They don't have that built-in passion in it, and I don't think I have that anymore. So which team, the real question is, which team do I care about the most of the ones I still kind of care about? Apparently the Mets are in the playoffs and people are texting me and I'm like, that's how far out I am, just so you know. The Celtics is the team I care about the most. But like even with them winning the championship, and it was awesome, and I watched it, of course, and watching the finals with my son Chris has been kind of become our thing. And we both don't watch a lot of regular season. He kind of follows the league from a TikTok standpoint, if you will, in a video game standpoint. But watching the playoffs with him is everything. And so there are parts of today's game that I do love and I get. But yeah, I'm that old guy who's going to lament that the game isn't what the game used to be in my game. And I am that old guy. The modern NBA, it's I mean, it's good. It's very good. It's very good. But it's not why what am I'm watching? I make a living watching 90s NBA videos. That's how much I watch them. All right. That I mean the level of physical competitiveness and role playing, you know, and it was a different game. That's my game right there. So thank you. Thank you very much. Great chat. Are we rolling here? Great chat going on. Alan Wong just back in the back door says Ali, Lewis, and Holmes as top 4 heavyweight greats in that order. All right, I'm never gonna have an issue with anyone, whichever way you go, Ali and Lewis 1 and 2, but I think they have to be there 1 and 2. The cool thing is that everybody's 3 through 7 seems to involve a lot of the same names, but you've got a lot of active movement in there. You know, Lennox Lewis says 3 is not a bad take. I would have told you that was a really bad take in 2000, 2003, to, you know, maybe even 2007 or 8. Did I learn to appreciate Lennox Lewis more because I grew out of the space I was as an American fan, where we sort of looked at this foreigner with a soft voice, you know, and yeah, so what if Bo put the title in the trash? Man, screw Lennox Lewis. That guy sucks. I saw him get knocked out twice, but yeah, he got up again and knocked those guys back out in the rematches and beat everybody he faced ultimately, and is the prototype of this new era of super heavyweights, you know, 6'5", physical specimen, knockout power in both hands, but he also can box. And for whatever, you know, chinny label that followed him, the track record of standing his ground is great. He's going to age like a fine wine, and I missed it in its moment because I hated that guy. But, you know, I had a great interview with Lennox at Canelo versus Kovalev weekend when DAZN flew all those legends in, and I told him that straight up, you know, and it was like, and to some degree we missed how great he actually was in the moment, because so many of us are still holding on to whatever Tyson had left, you know, and when whatever, I mean, Bo was there and then he was gone, and Holyfield kind of never went away. And, you're still kind of stuck in the previous era, but, Lennox Lewis was grown up in that era. And I mean, for as flash in a sense as the one punch knockout loss in South Africa he had to Rockman, where maybe he was overlooking him and focused too much on the movie and the Oceans, whatever movie he was doing with Vladimir. Yeah, but it also gave us a chance to see how nasty Lennox is to get revenge. I mean, he got revenge on Oliver McCall, but McCall had a meltdown in the process, and it's, such a weird fight. And also, for as much as I hated Lennox and sort of celebrated when McCall knocked him out with one punch with Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, by the way, McCall, the ref should have allowed him to continue in hindsight, I believe. Back then, I was happy with that quick stoppage, but this kind of, but the comeback against Rockman was maybe like the most, from an artistic standpoint. I mean, he beat the shit out of Rock, and the way he set him up for that knockout, and how Rockman fell with his head on the Don King crown logo, right? It was in spread eagle. I mean, and what that meant, because like that confirmed, if you didn't like Lennox, then, him getting knocked out by Rockman would ultimately confirm everything you thought negative against him. And then he did that. But does he age even more aggressively than he should because of how bad the heavyweight era that followed his retirement was? I don't know, maybe during the Klitschko era, when we respected everything the Klitschkos were achieving, but could not stop lamenting where the division was and how poor and how lack of depth completely, or even star power, especially on an American level, there was. Yeah, we probably were like, man, if Lennox could probably get off the couch now and take this thing back. So yeah, you left us hanging to some degree. Does that help Lennox's legacy? I don't know. Whatever. He's great. Holmes is always going to be criminally underrated, but I like when he sort of settles in there at 4. I have no problem with George Foreman in any of these spots either. 3, you got to really kind of reach for it, but he belongs in there too. The question really is like, okay, it's going to be easier for me to compare guys certainly from the 70s to now because we're closer in body size and modern style of the game. But, how am I going to compare the eras where it doesn't compare as well? Marciano's is one of them, although it's closer in years to the more modern era. But, that was when the heavyweights were really cruiserweights or light heavyweights, maybe. I mean, like, it's guys like, not even 200 pounds, but yet had an incredible career. But that was like a small era. And what do we do with Dempsey and Jack Johnson? Because you'll see Jack Johnson on a lot of these lists at like 3 or 4. And if you're looking at it from impact, yeah, and how great he was compared to his time, yeah, and the hurdles he had to overcome, yeah, for sure. But like, that's a whole different time for the sport and how it's structured and the type of opponents you get. So I don't even know how you compare that. But you do see Dempsey in there as well. It can be easier to put in more of the Foreman, the Holmeses, and the Lewises in that spot. And I got to be honest with you, I think they deserve it because at some point, the idea of greatness is, yes, everything you accomplished in comparison to what it meant in your era, but also, could these guys face off? Would that be the ultimate decider in some ways? It's unfair when comparing eras that don't, connect in that regard, but equally in terms of that. But it makes for interesting debate. And man, heavyweight boxing. I mean, it's just, the drug never stops. Even when it's Sultami Braganov against, Ruslan Chagayev in 2007 or some crap, and even that era. I mean, that era sucked, right? It's it just tastes different. It is. Thank you very much. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep this thing moving. Wow, Frozen Chalice just put his hand where it matters. Thank you. Arguello versus Duran at lightweight. Who you got? Oh, Arguello versus Sanchez at featherweight. Who you got? So these are good ass questions, and these are like the fire pit debates where you really just you really map it out in your head and really try to figure it out. I think Duran is the greatest lightweight of all time, so I'm going to take him here. And although there was that mythical creature, remember, I'm not necessarily talking about 2013 TRT Vitor Belfort, but don't forget about the mythical creature that was lightweight champion Shane Mosley, who was one of the baddest dudes for a short period. That I always like to at least add that in. But yeah, this is Roberto Duran's division historically. Arguello is such a beautiful and tough as nails fighter, but the 1970s prime lightweight version of Duran. Just a different beast from even the guy who really just kept moving up in Pacquiao-like ways of just like, how great can you be? Just keep, oh, okay, now you're at cruiserweight. Like, what are we doing here? You know, like seriously, like some of these divisions you'd see him at in his early 40s, and he's kind of still in these fights against these guys. And it's like, OG, man, OG of the area. Sanchez fight, I'm still going to take Sanchez. Yeah, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him. Offensively, the ability to box, the Arguello-Pryor, the first fight will just, Barry Tompkins tells such good stories about that time, about the political climate in Miami and how much that played in, in the gang wars and all that. Like that, all that was like a soundtrack to what was going around that fight at the Orange Bowl, and how many twists and turns that epic contest took. You could make a movie about that. You know what I mean? It's like bad pizza, bad sex. I mean, is it really that bad, right? Sometimes bad boxing. Sometimes like there's a lot of shit in boxing that I'll put up with because, man, when we find that right batch again, man, when the shit's good. I mean, I just rewatched Usyk Fury 1 the other night for the first time. Sing hallelujah for the first time. That's the Head and the Heart song. That fight freaking rules. Okay. I mean, it's not as epic in an action sense as Bo Holyfield won, but in a greatness sense and a skill sense and what that fight meant, undisputed championship, what Usyk was trying to do for his own ambition and resume. Like that's some all-time shit, and it just happened and it went by, and we're gonna have it again, and we got people better be coming. Okay, it's like this is there was a wild ride right now. Okay, what does that have to do with Arguello versus Sanchez? Not much, but savor the flavor. There's this sport takes some wacky turns. Sometimes I'm going to advise you not to be a fan of it because there's years where it's like they almost don't deserve it. We haven't had one of those years in a while, and we got turkey right now. So there we go. I want to talk turkey. That's what I do. Wow, James, thank you, James Blankley. Thank you for showing your real self. You know what I mean? I just appreciate you guys. Thank you, Alan. Right back at it. Yeah, that's one of the great ones right there. Wowza, indeed. He wants to know Aaron Pryor versus Pacquiao at 35. Damn, Alan. Damn, the Alan Wong, right? The Wonginator on that one. Damn, Alan. Hawk time, right? Hawk time. But lightweight Pacquiao was a mythical creature. He really was a mythical creature. Paulie Malignaggi has always been aggressive about certain takes. One of them is he's never stopped really from the beginning saying, hey guys, I think Pacquiao's been on steroids the whole time. And he's always kind of backed up his argument without having proof, but just saying, I know this game, I've seen this. And, look at the era we're in. I mean, yeah, everyone, right? But probably, you know what I mean? But like, what he always says is, I've been in boxing forever. I know you can't run in, throw 5 or 6, 7, 8 punches, take one step back, and then dart back in and do it again without having to stop and take a breath, like without having, you know what I mean? And that was the tropical storm version of Manny at a few points, but particularly in the final stages of 35, the one fight at 140 against Ricky Hatton, which is, maybe Pacquiao was a better version against De La Hoya because of how comprehensive that perfectionist beatdown was. But the most dangerous he ever was in this pocket in that 140 fight against Ricky Hatton. It was, and then the first 4 rounds against Cotto. The first 4 rounds of that fight were a mini Hagler Hearns. Okay. So Pacquiao in and around this weight class is durable as shit. He's the fastest guy on the floor at all times. And the angles he cuts and the combinations he throws, even in the midst of still trying to figure out his right hand. Now, at this point, at the end of that 35 into 40 run, when it became, mythical Pacquiao, when it was, I have no idea how many divisions he can climb. He might be on Jimmy Kimmel later too, singing with a bandage on his head. Like that's where we're at in the Manny experience. 35, he was and that right hand didn't, by this point it was there, Manila Ice. But even when that right hand was just a placeholder to set up how explosive he was at that left cross. I mean, when he obliterated Barrera, was that 03 in San Antonio? He had already leaped on the map when he was the last minute replacement, and he had the title fight on HBO, and he just completely kicked your television screen in to win the title there. And big upset. Like, what's the guy's name? I always will say, what's the guy's name? And then remember it 30 seconds later. But the point is, I thought he was going to be that, like that knife through hot butter against Barrera in the first fight? No. And that was such a rudimentary version of him. But by the time that he's at 35, he's a full course meal with Freddie Roach behind him. So Aaron Pryor was dynamic, and he was a badass, and he would knock you the frick out, and he could box, and he could go. I mean, he could do it all. I wish he had fought Leonard. That's the one that got away. I don't blame Leonard for it, but I wish he would have. Pacquiao at 135 is gonna make this an absolute war against Pryor, and he's not gonna stop him. That would go the distance in an incredible action fight. Maybe to some degree how the first Morales Pacquiao went. Now I know Pacquiao lost that fight in a close one, but I'm saying like where it's going to be competitive, but maybe in that one Pacquiao has the tank to pull him out. Look, sit with me by the fire. We can go another 2 hours on this if you want, but we do have to see where we're at here. Wow, Nick, thank you so much. Love the BCX. Shout out you seemingly being an awesome family, seemingly, right? Especially Dad. Thanks for being you and for the 9/11 jokes. Man, I don't want to get labeled as the 9/11 joke guy, but have you seen this shit's been on fire lately? Okay, but thank you for that notion. Yeah, look, family is the most important thing that matters to me. My family, without question. And I roll the dice and play a few jokes on MK, and that's BC and when he's getting loose. But yeah, man, I'm a boring dude in the basement with a lot of vinyl, okay, and really fun friends that are willing to talk with me on this channel. So that's who you're looking at. James Blankley, thank you so much. So you're talking about, okay, Shelton rules. So this dude's a valley dude. So I come from the Naugatuck Valley. I come from the head of the Naugatuck Valley, the town of Naugatuck with the Naugatuck River Valley, and the river running through it. And there were decades that if you put your flesh in that river, you'd probably lose a limb due to the chemicals that were being dumped in there. This guy's downstream in Shelton, okay? And Shelton has this half of the town that they call Huntington, and they're like, no, we're Fairfield County. We're legit. We're not dirtbag valley pieces of shit. But I'm here to tell you, dude, they were wrong, okay? So let's just be, let's be valley guys. Let's be valley guys together, okay? Valley New Year. Enjoy it the night before Thanksgiving. There we go. Yeah, thank you for that. Wow. Maximiliano Martin. I mean, you didn't have to do that. Thank you, sir. This is fantastic. Are there any fighters that you dislike in the past? My grandmother hated Manny Pacquiao like older money, but it was really because he beat Marquez 3 times. I could understand that. Grandma might not be wrong from the area she's coming from, because this shit's real. This shit's real to us. When you gotta, I never benefited from like being, I was always jealous of people that were Puerto Rican and they had that, Puerto Rican guys were theirs, or the Mexicans or whatever. I didn't necessarily ever really have that, but I certainly had fighters that were mine. And, when Oscar knocked out Mayorga, I don't know in hindsight why I was that excited, but I thought there was some rebirth in Oscar, and it kind of was a rebirthing fight. And he knocked him the frick out and beat him down and made him pay for all that stuff. And yeah, I was fired up. I was an Oscar guy, but there are guys I didn't like. Yeah, I hated Lennox Lewis. Are you kidding me, guy? Man, Lennox Lewis sucked. I mean, it turns out he's one of the best of all time, but yeah, he sucked back then. Who else here? I thought I hated Holyfield. I was a big Bo guy. So I was, I played into that early 90s stereotype that Holyfield had to constantly fight his way out of. The fact that this all-time great would almost need to suffer his first loss like he did in 1992 against Riddick Bowe, the first fight of their trilogy, one of the greatest heavyweight title fights of all time, a flagpole of the era in terms of this is what it tastes like, right? This is it. And it took Holyfield losing that fight like a man to like almost finally get the respect that he never got because he didn't go through Tyson and had to go through happenstance through Buster Douglas to become champion. But, you know, I'm like, yeah, he is too small and he is a dirty fighter and he is this and he's probably on steroids. He probably was, but I was a Bo guy until Tyson Holyfield won. You know, like the fight finally happened, and it's a fight that it's probably my second favorite fight of all time, because that was the fight that was supposed to happen in 1990 and 1991. I mean, it was supposed to happen like 4 times, and so many things, injuries, the controversial nature of Tyson Ruddock won with Richard Steele's abrupt stoppage that forced an immediate rematch, that, you know, everything kept delaying it, and Tyson injured, and then now Tyson's in jail. But we forget where we were at in the landscape heading into that fight in 1996, that Holyfield was the old meat, you know, like washed too early, ready to be thrown to slaughter because he had a couple weird performances and flat performances. The Bobby Ches fight, even losing, what was the fight where he ended up having, even the third Bo fight with the hepatitis, was that the fight, or am I confusing that with another one? Either way, like at that point we're like, man, his heart might, you know, and he was healed by Benny Hinn and through prayer, and suddenly the heart thing wasn't an issue, and then they find out, I think in retrospect, that he was just misdiagnosed. Either way, like, he was done, and this was almost Tyson using his name now to keep building after the knockouts of Bruno in the rematch to win his first title post jail in 95 in the Bruce Seldon fight, which is so suspect, guys. Like, how, in hindsight, how did we just not like stop what we were doing and be like, hey, all you people like that are building your life around, you know, researching who really killed JFK, can you pause that and figure out, like, did Bruce Seldon take the loaded envelope? I mean, are we kidding there? But, you know, you had to still love Mike. Like, if you lived the 80s experience like I did, and I wasn't like the guy with the Tyson poster or t-shirt, but how are you not a Mike Tyson fan? Like, there, you know, like there's that window, like Bo Jackson had his same window, but there's that window where, you know, Tyson's bigger than Jordan Bird Magic and name Joe Montana, name anybody else. I mean, so of course, when he goes through the 3 years away, almost 3 years away in jail, and the damage to his reputation, and almost not the shell of the fighter, because you didn't really know, but you really knew that he was never the same from the Douglas loss, you know, and losing the key relationships that he needed to stay on track. Kevin Rooney, the trainer, being one of them. Like, you know, you could tell that it wasn't the same version of him, but when he came back from jail, it really wasn't the same version of him. It was still aggressive enough to knock out the guys he's supposed to as they build him back up. Hilariously, right? Especially with the Peter McNeely fight, which was a massive, massive pay-per-view. But, you know, I legitimately thought Tyson was going to go in there and knock Holyfield out. And yeah, you almost had to have. And Holyfield just, you know, we talk about a lot of great calls in boxing announcing history, and I've long been a student of this, like the soundtrack that great announcers, you know, Vince Scully in the 86 World Series, like little roller down the bag at first, it gets behind Buckner, you know, here comes night, and the Mets win it. It's like you got the goosebumps, like you're watching the 1980 ending of Mike Eruzione and the US hockey team and Al Michaels there. But Steve Albert, the way that he called as Holyfield was mounting, I mean, he beat the shit out of Tyson eventually in that fight. And it was a downhill where I'm like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And Steve Albert's like, you're watching an American sports legend in the purple trunks. And like in that moment, that was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life. So I went from like, man, Holyfield doesn't suck. He's everything that's right about this sport and this game. And, you know, he's not a perfect man. I'm not trying to angle it like that. But I mean, like, you know, he gave all to his pursuit. I mean, too much, you know, in the final chapters of his career. But wow, man. So yeah, that was my guy. Long-winded answer. Jed Meshew in here. Just wanted you to know I have the second most views on your YouTube behind Max Holloway. The people crave our collabs. Wow, Jed Meshew the second, just putting his arm in, trying to, you know, see if it's gonna get stuck. Wow. Yeah, the people ultimately speak. Do we want more Jed on this channel? Like, That's up to the viewers, Jed. I'm sorry. All right, they're going to decide ultimately. I guess they're deciding with their clicks, but appreciate the time with Jed. Fantastic dude and an absolute dirt hole. I mean, did you see the guy's hair? A dirt hole. From Nick here. Thank you, Nick. Take 3 MMA fighters that have that boxing art. They choose to go down the boxing route instead of MMA. Who are they? And can they win a title? Oh man. So they're going full on boxing training from the beginning, right? Demetrius, no one brings this up enough. Maybe because he was so well rounded and everything, and he was just kind of the perfect fighter. But man, like what he could do with his hands and how athletic he was and in control. And I mean, he seemed to have a an athletic polish and the mind, obviously. That I think I always thought that especially in those low weight classes. I wonder what he would have been had he gone that way, if not in there. Max Holloway, because of the heart and the and the commitment to the boxing in his game and the aura. And I mean, especially if he was an action fighter that worked off the jab but was looking to definitely in that regard. Damn, even Volkanovski, I would love to see. Pereira would be an easy answer, Alex Pereira without question. And Glover Teixeira. I mean, there's guys that you certainly could say. Junior Dos Santos probably could have been a good heavyweight boxer to some degree, as long as his chin could hold up in that lane. But I mean, held up fairly. He was a world champion. Held up fairly well. He went through some beatings against Kane in those second and third fights. Like, damn. By the way, that was hilarious. Was that a UFC countdown thing where a fan came up to Pereira and then wanted the picture with Glover and thought it was JDS? It seemed staged, but it was still hilarious, just the same. I'm going to give you those 3 fighters where, maybe you can argue with guys, I mean, Adrian Yanez has great boxing hands in MMA. Could he just as well been a boxer? Probably. But sometimes I'm looking at, the full man, if you will, and saying, what if he developed, that stance and that everything from the beginning? It is interesting when you start to go down that road. I'll leave you with that. There you go. All right. One more. Let me get back on this. So Trent, thank you guys for continuing. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon, but I got one here from the TNT. Do you enjoy country music? If so, who are your favorite artists? I don't enjoy traditional country music, although certainly things can cross over genre wise and enter your purview. And I certainly have a respect for what country music is, old country, real country. Yeah, I grew up through all of that. And my dad was a massive Willie Nelson, Hank Williams Jr., Randy Travis, like not so much George Strait, but I was still definitely exposed to him. And then there's like a subset of the family that were like, into Alabama and more, and down those type of in the pop roads on country. Whatever the modern country became largely makes you want to puke. But, I've always been such a respecter of country rock when done in like the late 60s, early 70s way. Like think Graham Parsons, think the Sweetheart of the Rodeo Birds album in 1967, that in some ways kind of made that genre what it was. I go more of the Graham Parsons route into the Flying Burrito Brothers and then into his brief solo career before dying, where he thought he invented something he called cosmic American music, which was that perfect blend of country instrumentation and thought process, but through the lens of rock, that reappeared in such a beautiful and undervalued and understated way with the alternative country movement of the 90s. And the Jayhawks to early Wilco, like I love that so much, but that's not real country either. But I mean, when you're saying there's a lot of different kind of country, I mean, like all outlaw country, I like the Bakersfield sound, for sure, definitely. But these days, in terms of like traditional mainstream, I mean, people are saying that I'd like Zach Bryan, but I haven't really reached in that level. Somebody shouted me out on a Luke Combs Fathers and Son record, and Brandon Wise was like, "Yo, check that out." Wise man, I did dig that. I do know what's going on in there. I certainly like, in indie or folk artists who have the country today drip connected to them to some degree, the feeling. Think of Ryan Adams, back 20 years ago, Rustin Kelly today, like those type of guys that I like. Dave Sandine saying, and we greatly appreciate the live chats. Glad you finally came. Yeah, thank you so much, Dave. I guess I needed that nod and the push and the kick in the rear end because, you know, I could be door dashing right now, but no, I really wasn't actually doing it that much. But it's not above me. Believe me. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It actually is. But this is a better use of my talents. And here's there. It's a multifaceted answer. Not that like anyone cares or it really matters, but part of it too was like I was in pause mode on Morning Combat, and it's not that Morning Combat isn't going to continue on and have new life and create new eras of it, or you know, and I want it to grow and change, and we are on point to start to do the Friday shows like real soon, and then big is expected in 25. But I was holding on to the old, you know, model and where we were, and sort of everything was on pause, thinking that like the old structure was kind of set up because it aligned all of our interests in one with CBS and Showtime, where it was easy to just make MK the focal point of everything I do and everything through an MK vision in mind. And part of me almost didn't want to create this because it's almost a natural sort of contention with that. Obviously, you can have balance and you can have, you know, this, and it's been sort of my hand forced in a lot of ways, just where the jobs have gone and where the opportunities have been, and things kind of starting anew where we are with DraftKings and all that. All good. I'm glad Luke, my wife, Mikey, and some people, average Joe Art, man, that guy's a real one too. Shout out to Joe Romero. That's my guy right there. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad you guys care about me speaking in circles because I'll do it. Believe me, I'll do it. I mean, I'll do a daily. We can do a daily show here. I mean, I can get real grifty and make this a thing. But no, it's a side hustle. It's a hack. It's a way to continue this community because, you know, it hasn't been great for me in this MK in between era either. I mean, for Luke either. It's sort of like we're trying our best, but you know, there's only so much we can do. But things are finally happening, and that's great. But what is this new MK generation going to look like era? What is, I don't know. We're going to see, man. We got ideas, but we're going to see, but it's going to be its own new thing and something different. And this is something different and new and weird and unique right here. So maybe we do get more Jed going on in here, but definitely more music and more vinyl. Okay, let's get Bronstetter up in the bullpen. And by the way, if you're not checking out what Rafe and I are back doing weekly with Inside the Box, it feels like the first time. I love that, dude. So, you know, that show is going to hopefully build a little bit more in terms of, you know, more than just turning on the camera. We'll have more elements, but that's what you get. You get two dorks reliving their favorite times being boxing fans and trying to relate it to the modern day. And man, we got Rafe watching women's boxing right now. Are you kidding me? The dream has happened, right? We're finally in it. And also MK is going to win. Also all the smoke fight, man. That's really, you know, there's going to be some opportunities coming up. It's feels good. It feels good, man. Things are coming together. Okay. We'll see where I'm going to be on that show October 19th. Don't miss it. Okay. Tim Zoo, big time fight. I'll be on the call. This is from Perfect Speller. BC is a top tier rambler. Well, I'm definitely a rambler. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sorry for that. Sorry for continuing. You know, there used to be a running joke on the old Malka staff in the bomb shelter that I would say their, you know, full name on the air, and they'd be like, "BC, not the government name." No, 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 no. And I'd always be like, "Oh, okay, so you guys like actively don't want to be linked with this show, right?" I appreciate that. At least come out and say it right up front. But yeah, LNW is a real one, and yeah, we might as well. I have a lot more. Man, maybe one more for the homies. Okay. You ever see that dude, Cologne Boy? I follow him on Instagram. I follow a lot of weird people on Instagram, but I think they're funny. Cologne Boy, a shout out to that guy. Shout out to the Rizzler, even though that old Costco guy Universe is weird as crap. You know, the guy Sally Slices too. Yeah, I'm a weirdo with a phone, you know, and a lot of free time, just like you. Okay. Thank you. Let me see if I got one more here. You know, one that really okay, from at Pretzel Head, sup BCEO. Always been curious what LT really thinks about the skits and bits during MK. He says my favorite part of the show, just very vague Chang's reference. Yeah, you know, shout out, I guess, to the Reddit zone over there. So here's the thing, like it's just, I mean, it's hilarious and it's weird and you know, it's like it's not even about Schaub really yet. It's completely about him. It's like these creative people that, you know, and Luke is a friend of Schaub, so that's the bit. Like I got nothing against Brendan Schaub in reality, like I never did. The bit is, oh, this is your friend, then you know, look at what like it was, and it's a cheap bit, but I didn't expect those Redditors and those skits and bitters. I didn't know they were MK fans like they apparently they were, and I didn't know how this all crossed together. And and you're like, man, you did skits and bits too, Shab. Yeah, I did. I was trying to have fun. I was trying to, start up the comedian. Let's cry, like, dunk on me. Let's go. Let's make some magic here. You know what I mean? But it was really just to always press the buttons on Luke, and Luke has always been a good sport. And I think at some level he realizes too that I mean, it's kind of cruel, and it's poor Shab for sure, but he also seems to step in bear traps again and again, unfortunately for him in that regard. And I think Luke has just come around to me breaking down his skits and bits walls, where now he finds out about the song or the reference of the joke. He doesn't even know what it means or where it's rooted in, but it is a trope in this show for me to skits and bitsy, and suddenly Luke can smell like, did somebody fart in this room? I mean that's the joke. That's the bit right there. Okay, to me. So there you go. And we got our own Reddit channel too. Sometimes I peruse that, and it's weird too, but shout out to the people that love us. Thank you, folks. Thank you. This was 2 hours. Thank you. This is what we do. So yeah, I guess we're going to continue to do this every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Campbell's Rambles. Thank you to everybody. I don't even know how this chat super thing works, super chat GPT, but your generosity, your love, your whatever we call it here is appreciated. Thank you. This channel's been it's been a wild ride. It's been a roller coaster with some fun turns, but stay tuned. Okay, we got some continuously. I always want to say, we got great content. We got fun content coming. This is going to be great. I don't know if it's going to be great. I mean, it depends. At what point does this relationship become a little bit too much PC? All right, we're figuring it out right now, but thank you. It's quasi combat sports and about also some other stuff. So thank you to everybody that's made this journey so fun. Thank you to Mikey. Thank you to Alan W and all the government names here. Thank you, folks. It's been fun. Check out the other content. If you like the Vince McMahon docuseries on Netflix, I got about an hour and 10 minutes to say about it tomorrow. Don't miss it. PC signing off. Take care of yourself. Okay. You can do this. You really can. It's never going to be easy. Okay. It's never going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. Let's go. We got this. All right. Yeah. Wow. All right.